Welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the Week 16 running back rankings. Congratulations on making it this far. That is freaking awesome. Of course, we will recap how I did in Week 15 for my DFS buys. You can find the DFS buys for Week 16 if you want to trust them at the end of the video. And then we'll get to the rankings. But before that, please do drop a like if you enjoy the video. And I will be here live on YouTube 2 hours prior to kickoff this evening on Thursday night. And then 2 hours prior to kickoff on Saturday. And 3 hours prior to kickoff on Sunday. You can find these rankings up at the website, www.thefforge.com. They're available there to look at closer. There are projections, as you can see on the screen, as well as, of course, the order that I go through them, which we will go through them in my tiers. It's going to be the order that I have them ranked in. But the projections are there for you to view as well. That's based on how they've done so far this season and how the opponent that they're facing has fared against running backs as well. And red is good, blue is bad, white is neutral for all of the color coding that you will see on the screen. So I think that's everything. Probably not, but let's recap Week 15 and how I did with my DFS buys. I said that I would pay for Kyren Williams at $7,500 at a steep discount compared to McCaffrey and Kamara, and I thought he could very easily keep up with them this week. Well, McCaffrey had the week that we all thought that he might, an absolutely ginormous week. Kyren Williams didn't quite raise to that level, was not able to keep up with McCaffrey in that massive week that he had, but not to say Kyren Williams didn't come through. He did come through with the top 5 running back week and did outscore Alvin Kamara. And I also, just quick mention, I should have gone with McCaffrey here. So I don't want to give myself the full boast here. You should have paid up for McCaffrey last week. He would have really helped your lineup. He was, of course, in the consideration, but I wanted that steep discount for Kyren Williams, and, well, I got it. But he was still helpful. Then for a good price, I thought you could probably consider this to be a contrarian play as well, and that was paying $6,100 for DeAndre Swift. He came within 1 yard of paying it off for you, but he didn't quite pay off for you because, of course, the tush-push exists, and that's what always hurts his value. Then for the big tournament long shot and or contrarian play, I gave you Zamir White, so a big tournament long shot at $4,400. Thought that he could be a surprise. The Chargers not a fantastic run defense, blah, 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 blah. Gave my reasons for it. He finished 12th on the week, so at that price, that was definitely a good value. Then for my fades and my lups, for the fades, I gave you Joe Mixon and Ken Walker. That was a massive failure. I do think that the ideology or the thought process there was there for Joe Mixon, and I do think that that might have actually been a good fade had it not been for the fact that Chase Brown ended up getting injured early on in the third quarter. Up until that point in the game, Chase Brown had been out carrying Joe Mixon, or out touching Joe Mixon, like 9 to 4, 9 to 5 touches, something approximately around there. And then, of course, from that point on was when Joe Mixon went off. Chase Brown did end up coming back into the game. He seems to be fine for this week, but it wasn't until later in the game, and they only used him like once or twice more in the game after he got injured. Not too much. But yeah, both of them had good games, finished 14th and 8th, so bad fades. For my loves, Devon Achane was my first love. Finished 31st on the week, so that did not come through. And then Zach Charbonnet had 1.6 fantasy points, so that did not come true. So all in all, really bad there, at least for the fades and the loves. And I went 2 out of 3 on the DFS there, so not too bad. Let's move on to the Week 16 rankings. So as always, first tier now available on the screen. My top 6 running backs make this tier. Starts off at my RB1 with Christian McCaffrey, of course, followed by Kyren Williams. James Cook up here at running back 3, amazing. Alvin Kamara at running back 4. Raheem Mostert at 5, and Rachaad White at 6. And I mean, these guys have just been fantastic, whether it be season long or just as of late, and seemingly due to a change maybe in an offensive scheme that has helped to propel them as of late. So there's no freaking way I'm sitting any of them. Let's move on to the second tier, where you're still probably going to be starting these guys, right? That's going to be, but I mean, I've seen some really stacked lineups with questions throughout the entirety of this season, so there's no guarantee that you might not be able to sit some of these guys in this tier. Starts off with my running back 7, goes down to my running back 13. Joe Mixon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, Tony Pollard, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane. Yet again, going to be a love for me going back to that tree. That's not a saying. And Travis Etienne Jr. at running back 13. Let's see here. Isaiah Pacheco. We're not going to talk about everybody in this video, but if I had something to say for sure about him, or if I'm off compared to the ECR, the expert consensus ranking, that's usually when I'm going to be talking about someone. So for Isaiah Pacheco, going up against Las Vegas, and it's a good matchup. Pacheco is trustworthy, I think, at least that floor. I like it. The team relies on him. I would actually say that he is this offense's heartbeat. Not the brains, that's Mahomes or Coach Andy Reid, but this season specifically, he has been the heartbeat for this team. He gives them that electricity that they need. And with Rashee Rice finally giving defenses something to be concerned about, that should help to open things up for Pacheco, and he's already running well. And Pacheco had a really good game the last time that they faced Las Vegas. In a game where they started in a 14-0 hole, he still had quite a few touches. And I know I meant to write down how many touches he had, and I did not finish that note. So he still had quite a few touches, and he had a really good game. I think 2 touchdowns, like 25 fantasy points in full PPR, something like that. So it was a good game. Tony Pollard and Bijan Robinson up next here. My EV running backs 18 and 16 sitting here ranked 10th and 11th this week. 18 for Tony Pollard, Bijan Robinson 16. EV is equalized value. That is a number, a stat that I keep track of. It's a homebrewed stat of my own. And basically, it's very similar to the average fantasy points per week. However, it takes into account the consistency factor, and it also gets manipulated a little bit by me to try to represent if these guys are healthy for a full game, how well they play. So if they got injured early on in a game, they got 1.4 fantasy points, they get injured, it's in the first quarter or something, then I wipe that from the data. That doesn't count into it. So just a little heads up on that, as well as the fact that any running backs that are not expected to be playing this week would not have been in that data this week for that 18 to 16 number. Minor things, but just letting you know that. On to their matchups. Tony Pollard's going up against Miami. I think, everybody thinks this should be a high upside type of matchup, a high scoring back and forth type of game is very possible there. So that should give Tony Pollard plenty of opportunities to get into the end zone and rack up some yards and whatnot. Then for Indianapolis, Bijan Robinson's opponent, they're a top 5 running back matchup. So you like that. And I am concerned about both of them, especially given how they have performed on the season. But I would feel like an absolute idiot if I left either one of them on my bench and they were to go off from there. So I don't really want that, and I like the matchups enough for them. Then Devon Achane, of course, my love of the week, as we mentioned. And it's time to take your shots at this point in the season. Kind of contrary to what I'm saying about Tony Pollard and Bijan Robinson, and always, follow your gut and be willing to take shots. Sometimes players just have to get ranked where they have to get ranked, and you can't always recommend people follow your own gut, my own gut, So that's part of the reason for these loves, these fades as well, is to just kind of give you a warning that, hey, I have a little extra concern, or I'm a little extra excited about somebody. And for Achane, I'm excited to take a shot at the ceiling for him. He has been absolutely fantastic overall on the season when he's gotten opportunities. It is a small sample size. He did not come through last week, but I think that we're in yet another great opportunity. And we did just see last week a similar style running back in some ways in James Cook destroy the Dallas defense, and maybe that'll set up a bit of a blueprint for Miami to follow and utilize. Then we got Travis Etienne Jr. to finish this tier up, going up against Tampa Bay, who has a solid rushing defense. Travis Etienne's performance has been pretty reliant upon touchdowns throughout the season. Still, it's tough to sit him, and Jacksonville really may need to rely upon him this week with T-Law being out, most likely. That's not for sure yet. So those are the reasons that I still have him up here, even though I am a little bit concerned about him. Let's move on to this next tier of running backs, going from running back 14 down to running back 19. Kicks off with Derrick Henry and Breece Hall at 14 and 15, going up against Seattle and Washington. These are my EV running backs 21 and 24, so also ranked a little bit higher than how they performed on the season on average per week. And those matchups that I mentioned, Seattle, Washington, are both good running back matchups for them. That's why we have some hope for them this week. We know the downside to each of them, but just like Pollard and Bijan that I just mentioned, I would feel like an absolute idiot leaving these guys on my bench or not recommending that you start them, and they were to go off on your bench and you lose your week. So I'm not, I like the matchups for them yet again here is what it comes down to, and they're guys who I'd rather trust than not. Then Saquon Barkley at running back 16, followed by Ezekiel Elliott at running back 17, followed by David Montgomery at running back 18, going up against Minnesota, who is good against the run. If anything, this should be a Jahmyr Gibbs matchup, and so I am a little bit concerned about David Montgomery this week. But I still feel quite comfortable starting him. He has played very well this entire season. He's just not been getting the touchdowns as of late. And actually, he's played very well even lately in some games where the fantasy points haven't quite ended up being there for him. But the opportunities and all that was still just right there. He was knocking at the door in the last couple of matchups. He is still the EV number 5 on the week. So season long, he's been very consistent. I would trust him out there. And then Kenneth Walker, we've got at running back 19. He is the EV running back 11, so he has been very good for you. It's a better matchup than last week, going up against Tennessee here. And Walker either does it or he doesn't, and he did it last week, so we're going to give him a little bit of faith to keep that going forward against, once again, a better matchup. Let's move on to this next tier of running backs, which goes all the way down to running back 27, starting at running back 20 with DeAndre Swift. And he's facing the New York Giants, and that is a good running back matchup. But it's tough for Swift to get those touchdowns. We know that, and that's why he's not in the same tier as the rest. Really do like the matchup. Concerned about the ceiling for him. Then at running back 21, we have Aaron Jones here going up against Carolina. He is a fade of the week here for me. Carolina is a good matchup. Might be a better matchup for A.J. Dillon, however, who is practicing already. Expect him to probably be returning this week. On the season, Aaron Jones is my EV running back 27. That's obviously not very good, and unfortunately, it's just tough to trust him. But Carolina is not only a good matchup, they're in fact possibly the best matchup in the entire league for running backs, of course. Still, I do expect Aaron Jones to be limited to some extent, so the ceiling is tough for him to reach, even in a good matchup like this. So I'm only going to give him so much faith. At running back 22, we have Chuba Hubbard, and running back 23, we've got Ty Chandler, and I'll feel comfortable starting either of these two. Their ceilings may be tough to reach for them for different reasons. Carolina going up against Green Bay. Chuba Hubbard, Carolina just struggles to get into touchdown territory and all that. And then, of course, the one or two times a game that they do, Chuba's got to be the one that actually gets the touchdown. It just is, not the greatest of trustworthy high upsides for Chuba. And 2 touchdowns, I mean, that's asking for a lot. Then Ty Chandler going up against Detroit's just a more stout defense for Ty Chandler to deal with. However, on the good side of news for Ty Chandler owners, it does look like Alexander Mattison is trending towards not playing this upcoming weekend. Then Austin Eckler, I've got at running back 24, and he is a love for me this week going up against Baltimore. He is the EV running back 26 on the season, so just one spot ahead of Aaron Jones on the season. And I was definitely tempted to rank him higher than this. It's been pretty bad as of late for Austin Eckler. The matchup here, however, against Buffalo is perfect for him. I mean, he's somebody who I might have to end up pushing up a little bit in my rankings. The reason that this matchup is perfect for Austin Eckler is that Buffalo allows the 4th highest yards per carry. So they're not very stout up front. That should help to give Austin Eckler slightly better lanes to work with, which we know once Austin Eckler gets out there, breaks out, he can bust some yards. And Buffalo allows the 5th most receptions to running backs, and of course we know the strength of Austin Eckler is his receiving ability. He did get 6 targets last week, so still getting targeted under Easton's stick. The Los Angeles Chargers are low on weapons. You would think Austin Eckler should be the game plan this week in order for them to try to win this game against Buffalo. The ceiling is absolutely real for Eckler this week, but obviously very tough to trust. Then we've got Jonathan Taylor in at running back 25, Evie running back 11 on the season, and I think that he's going to be limited, most likely. And it looks like Zach Moss is seemingly trending towards being fine and playing, being active for the game. And I think that both of them coming back from injury would probably split maybe even with one of those third running backs giving a little bit of help here and there, spelling them. Maybe, depending on exactly where their health is at. Atlanta, the opponent this week, is really good against the run. They have yet to allow a rushing touchdown the entirety of this season. So I am willing to sit Jonathan Taylor, but his talent can overcome any matchup, and I don't really want to sit him necessarily either. I don't know. He's a candidate to be moved up, possibly as high as running back 20. I'll just have to see how I feel about that, how I feel about Austin Eckler ahead of that as well. Ty Chandler, Chuba Hubbard. I really want to like those guys this week, but I have trouble. Maybe it's just the name factor, I don't know. You can see the projections are right there as well for these guys, all of them, except for Jonathan Taylor, and that's what's kind of holding me back on him too. Then we got James Conner here going up against Chicago, and Devin Singletary going up against Cleveland to wrap this up. Both are in tougher running back matchups, especially Singletary there going up against Cleveland. Still, all hope is not over for either of them, and they're still solid plays in my eyes. In fact, I would still play these guys over plenty of wide receivers, probably over roughly the top 25. I think it was like the top 27 receivers is roughly where I expect these guys to all be ranked ahead of. Then we've got the final tier of running backs on the screen from running back 28 to 33. Of course, I have more running backs ranked. They're all on the website. And I will show you my running backs that I have not ranked yet. They were supposed to be at the bottom of the screen right now, but I forgot to pull them back up. Anyways, when it comes to this tier, which has Zamir White in at running back 28, followed by Jerome Ford, Gus Edwards, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams, the same thing that I said for Connor and Singletary is essentially true for this group of running backs, lesser and lesser as we go through it, and that just being that all hope is not really over for them. There's still solid plays in my book, and several of them, once again, less and less, will be filtered in at least starting around wide receiver 25, 26, 27, quite possibly right behind Devin Singletary. There might not be any receivers that I like more than Zamir White, even though the tier cutoff is here. So, yeah, I'll be doing my flex rankings today while this video is airing. Then, let's see. None of them are in good matchups, so that doesn't help any of them outside of the Pittsburgh Twins. Both of these Pittsburgh guys playing against Cincinnati, and that's especially true because DJ Reader is going to be out, as far as I know, at least. Sorry if I'm wrong on that, but I believe DJ Reader would be expected to be missing this game. I think he had a serious injury out for the season, if I recall correctly, and he's a big factor in the run-stopping game, and we saw last week that they absolutely failed without him. Javonte Williams, last guy in this tier, running back 33, only makes this tier because of his workload. But frankly, I'm over it. I'm over him. I'm over it. I would be happy to sit him. He just hasn't been any good, and he will definitely not be up around wide receiver 27. It'll be a little bit lower than that. But because of his usage, he doesn't need to make this tier, I guess. As for the running backs that I'm currently not ranking, we have Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, Brian Robinson, and Alexander Madison. Once again, you want to look closer at all these, you can up on the website. And for my DFS buys of this week, I said I'm going to be paying up for Jahmyr Gibbs at $7,000. Actually, not too expensive there. And then for a good price, I given you Breece Hall at $6,100. I said maybe. Because maybe that's a good price for Breece Hall. I'm not sure about that. But a lot of the pricing seemed pretty fair and right on for the running back, so I really was struggling to find values within them. And then for the contrarian play, I'm going to give you Austin Eckler, thinking that he's a good contrarian play. For some reason, I didn't write down the price. Obviously, going to be more expensive, and that's part of the reason that I think he'll be a contrarian play this week. And as I told you and kind of explained why, I do think that very possible that Austin Eckler could have a big blow-up game this week, top 5 type of material. So there you go. That is it for the running backs. That is it for the rankings for this week. I will once again just be going live instead of doing a Saturday update video because of the NFL schedule at this point in the season. So peace out. I love you very much. Bye-bye.